Dark silence, a slow pause, then a voice within. What if the most underestimated force in this world is you? What if, hidden beneath the weight of doubt, beneath the voices that dismissed you, there was something untouchable? You have been overlooked, ignored, maybe even ridiculed. They saw your quietness as weakness, your patience as fragility, your kindness as naivety. But what they didn't realize is that silence sharpens the blade, that storms are born in stillness, that danger, true danger, is never loud. It grows invisible in the shadows, and when it strikes, it doesn't ask for permission. Every scar you carry, every time you were underestimated, every time you swallowed your rage in silence, it has not broken you. It has seasoned you. It has created a presence that will not scream for attention, but will be felt when it arrives. The world has no idea what is hidden beneath your restraint, and that is exactly why they'll never see you coming. We are taught from an early age that power must always declare itself, that the strong are loud, visible, unmistakable. From the playground to the boardroom, the same rule seems to echo. Speak the loudest, walk with arrogance, and convince others of your importance if you want to be respected. But this is a performance, not true strength. It is a mask crafted for the insecure, a show designed to hide fragility beneath noise. What no one tells you is that the most dangerous forces in life often move unseen. Earthquakes don't advertise their arrival. Storms don't give lectures before they strike. They come without warning, and their silence before the eruption is what makes them devastating. The misconception that strength must always be shown is precisely what blinds people to the real thing. They prepare to defend against what they can see, but what they cannot see is what undoes them. Think about how society worships spectacle. Social media thrives on appearances. Who looks the strongest, who speaks the boldest, who gathers the most eyes. People are rewarded not for their depth, but for their ability to convince others of a depth they don't actually possess. And in this culture of endless display, real power becomes invisible. It doesn't fit into a 20-second clip. It doesn't beg for likes or validation. Real power is patient, quiet, steady. It knows its worth without requiring the applause of strangers. Yet because it doesn't dance under the spotlight, it is dismissed. People confuse silence for weakness and stillness for irrelevance. They don't understand that silence is the ultimate shield, the place where a person sharpens themselves beyond recognition. They are blind to it, and in that blindness lies their downfall. Machiavelli understood this contradiction when he wrote about fear and love. He saw that fear, rooted in respect, not cruelty, lasts longer than affection born from charm. Yet his words have been twisted into a theater of intimidation, as though fear must be loud to be effective. The truth is subtler. The one who moves quietly commands the deepest kind of fear, because people cannot predict them. A predictable adversary is manageable. You can prepare for them. But an unseen force unsettles the heart. It gnaws at the mind. It creates unease even in silence. That is the kind of presence true strength builds, not through declarations, but through invisibility. The danger they never see is the danger they cannot control, and that is why the quiet person who refuses to display their every move is more powerful than those who announce themselves endlessly. Consider the way people misinterpret patience. They call it passivity. They think you're standing still because you are too weak to move, when in reality patience is strategy. The archer doesn't release the bow until the target is clear. The predator doesn't strike until the prey is exactly where it needs to be. The one who can wait, who can restrain themselves, who can endure without flinching, this is the person who controls the outcome. Society mocks those who don't rush to prove themselves, but in their rush they reveal everything, their desires, their weaknesses, their fears. The one who waits reveals nothing. That void terrifies people, even if they don't admit it. To stand calm in the face of chaos is to wield a kind of power the restless can never grasp. We live in a time when people confuse volume with authority. Whoever shouts the loudest is seen as the leader. Whoever gathers the most attention is assumed to be the most important. But history doesn't remember the loudest. It remembers the decisive. Those who built empires did not spend their lives convincing people of their worth. They simply acted when the moment came and the world adjusted. The misconception that strength must always be visible is a trap because it chains you to the need for constant performance. It forces you to keep proving and proving until you forget why you even began. But the one who breaks free from that trap, who refuses to display their every move, becomes untouchable. They cannot be baited, they cannot be manipulated, because their worth is no longer tethered to recognition. And yet, the greatest irony is this: those who seek to display their strength are the most fragile. They must be seen to feel secure. They must be praised to feel powerful. Take away their stage and they crumble. But the one who builds in the dark, who sharpens in silence, who strengthens their mind and heart away from the gaze of others, they lose nothing when unseen. They are still whole, still dangerous, still prepared. The misconception society carries blinds it to these people until it's too late. That's why, when they emerge, it feels sudden, as though danger has appeared out of nowhere. In truth, the danger was always there, quietly growing, waiting for the exact moment when the world least expected it. So the conflict is not between strength and weakness, it is between what people think strength looks like and what it truly is. We are surrounded by illusions. Men and women parading false confidence, voices screaming certainty, performances designed to impress shallow eyes, yet beneath all of it lies a deeper law. The most unshakable power does not need to announce itself. It doesn't rush to be understood. It doesn't bend under the weight of visibility. It simply exists, hidden in silence, until the day it chooses to act. And on that day, the world finally understands the truth it ignored all along. That the real danger is not the one it prepared for, but the one it never even noticed. There are moments in life when invisibility feels like a punishment. You walk into a room with ideas burning in your mind, only to have them brushed aside until someone louder, more assertive repeats them, and suddenly those same words are celebrated. You sit at a table and watch as others claim space with confidence, while your silence is mistaken for lack of value. This quiet dismissal carves deep into the heart. You begin to wonder if perhaps you are meant to remain unseen, if perhaps your softness is weakness. But what you don't realize in those moments is that invisibility is not always a curse. Sometimes it is a gift, a cloak that protects you from the shallow expectations of others, a disguise that hides your growth until it's undeniable. Think back to the times you gave everything to people who betrayed you. You offered loyalty without condition, love without calculation, and in return you were met with ingratitude or deception. That betrayal didn't just wound you, it awakened you. It forced you to look at the world differently, to recognize that not everyone who smiles at you wishes you well, and though it left a scar, that scar carried a lesson. Your trust is valuable, your energy is sacred, and those who take it for granted are unworthy of it. Pain has a way of refining vision. Betrayal sharpens discernment. What once left you broken becomes the very experience that strengthens your intuition, that teaches you how to see through masks, how to recognize sincerity from performance. It depends on how to see the one, how to separate from performance. There are also the times you poured effort into proving yourself, believing that if you worked harder, if you gave more, if you bent yourself into every shape others demanded, then finally you would be recognized. But the world rarely rewards sacrifice. It rewards visibility. And so you watch as others, less dedicated, less genuine, are celebrated simply because they shout louder. That realization is painful, even humiliating. It forces you to confront a bitter truth. Life is not always fair, and merit alone does not guarantee acknowledgement. But hidden within that truth is liberation. Because when you stop tying your worth to external recognition, you free yourself from the endless cycle of chasing approval. You stop exhausting yourself trying to impress those who are never going to see you clearly in the first place. Then comes the shift, subtle at first, but undeniable once it begins. One day you wake up and realize you no longer care who notices. You realize the applause you were chasing has no real substance, that the validation you craved was only temporary comfort. And in that moment, something heavy falls away. You stop performing. You stop shrinking or stretching to fit into spaces that don't value you. Instead, you start moving differently. You begin sharpening yourself not for their eyes but for your own purpose. Their blindness becomes your camouflage. While they are distracted by the noise of each other, you are learning, building, growing. While they waste time fighting for attention, you are preparing in silence. This transformation is not sudden. It is forged through many nights of solitude. In the quiet, when no one is watching, you discover strength you didn't know you had. You realize that resilience is built not when the world cheers for you, but when it ignores you. Every ignored contribution, every overlooked effort, every quiet heartbreak becomes material for something greater. And slowly, invisibility shifts from being a source of pain into a source of power. What once made you feel insignificant now becomes your greatest advantage. The less they see, the less they expect. And the less they expect, the more unstoppable you become when you finally decide to reveal yourself. Even in social circles, this plays out. Perhaps you were the one others underestimated, the one they didn't invite to the center, the one they thought would never rise beyond the background. And perhaps you felt small for a time. But those same people, busy underestimating you, gave you freedom. They left you alone, untouched by their scrutiny, free to evolve in silence. And by the time you began to grow into your true self, by the time your presence became undeniable, it was too late for them to box you back in. The very people who dismissed you now stand confused, wondering how they failed to notice your becoming. Their blindness was your protection, and their dismissal your camouflage. The truth is, the moments when you felt ignored, betrayed, or underestimated were never wasted. They were building something inside you that could not be built under applause. They were stripping away your need for validation, your hunger for recognition, and replacing it. There comes a time when the silence inside you stops feeling like emptiness and begins to feel like clarity. You no longer see yourself as someone waiting for permission, waiting to be chosen, waiting to be noticed. You start to realize that solitude is not loneliness, it is training. The hours you once cursed as isolation become sacred, because in them you discover who you are without the noise of the world. You begin to sense that every scar, every wound, every betrayal is not a mark of weakness, but a record of survival. They are reminders that you walked through fire and did not collapse. And in that understanding, you begin to awaken to a truth larger than pain. You are still here, and your presence is proof of resilience. In this awakening, the scars you once tried to hide become symbols of power. They no longer feel like shame, they feel like armor. The pain that once threatened to drown you becomes the very foundation you stand on. You realize that survival has carved strength into your bones in a way comfort never could. The world tells you that perfection is power, but you begin to see that imperfection is what makes you untouchable. Those who have never been broken live in fear of breaking. But you have already shattered and rebuilt yourself. What could possibly undo you now? This realization changes the way you carry yourself, not with arrogance, but with quiet certainty. You do not need to announce it. The strength is in your presence, in the way your eyes no longer lower, in the silence that no longer trembles. Imagery comes to you naturally in this state. You begin to feel like the mountain that does not bend, the storm that does not ask for permission, the still water that hides its depth until disturbed. You start to understand that stillness is not fragility, but mastery. Only those who are rooted deeply in themselves can afford to remain calm when the world shakes. You begin to embody that calmness not because life is easy, but because you know chaos cannot touch the foundation you've built. It is in this silence that you feel most alive. The awakening is not loud. It does not arrive with trumpets or applause. It arrives like dawn, quietly but undeniably, spreading light across everything without asking for recognition. The solitude that once weighed heavy on your chest now feels like a gift. It becomes a sanctuary, a place where no one's voice intrudes but your own. In that space you hear truths you once drowned out, that you were never fragile, that your worth was never dependent on their approval, that your essence was never small. It feels as though the world tried to convince you that you were clay, soft and shapeless, waiting to be molded, but in the silence you discover you are not clay, you are steel. You are not waiting to be shaped, you are forged. Every fire, every storm, every betrayal was part of that forging. And now you stand unbent, unbroken, undeniable. This awakening shifts how you see others too. You begin to notice the noise for what it is. Noise. The ones who shout their worth, who demand attention, who wear strength like a costume, suddenly look fragile to you. Their arrogance is transparent. Their need for recognition exposes their emptiness, and you no longer envy them. You no longer crave what they have, because you see it for what it is. A desperate performance. In contrast, your silence holds weight. Your calm unsettles them. Your refusal to play their game makes them nervous, because they cannot measure you, cannot predict you, cannot control you. And that is when you understand. You have become the danger they never saw coming. The awakening is not about revenge, though the thought may cross your mind. It is not about proving them wrong, though part of you delights in the idea. No, it is deeper. It is about stepping into yourself so fully that their opinions no longer matter. The true victory is not in their recognition, it is in your liberation. You wake up one day and realize that you do not need to be seen to be powerful. You do not need to be heard to be impactful. You are no longer bound by the performance of strength, because your strength is real, woven into the very fabric of your being. And so you begin to carry yourself differently. Not louder, not harsher, but steadier. The room changes when you walk in, even if you say nothing. People feel something they can't name. An energy, a presence, a weight that wasn't there before. It is not because you demand it, but because you embody it. This is the awakening, not the birth of something new, but the unveiling of what was always inside you. Waiting for the silence to grow strong enough to be heard, and now that it has, nothing will ever be the same. When everything is stripped away, the applause, the recognition, the validation, you are left with only yourself. And that is where the real revolution begins. Not in the noise of the crowd, not in the shallow praise of strangers, but in the quiet, unshakable understanding of who you are. The transformation you have undergone is not about becoming someone new. It is about returning to yourself, the version that was buried beneath expectations, beneath the hunger to be seen, beneath the fear of being overlooked. And in that return, there is a purity of power that no one can take away. It is the kind of strength that doesn't rise and fall with trends or opinions. It is a constant, a steady flame that burns whether or not anyone is watching. This is the revolution no one speaks about, because it cannot be measured by the world's shallow tools. It is invisible to those who chase validation, but undeniable to those who have touched it within themselves. To awaken to this truth is to realize that you no longer need to chase. You no longer need to prove. The game they play, endless performance, endless competition for attention, suddenly looks small to you. Because once you know your worth, you cannot unknow it. Once you see your own power, you cannot return to the blindness of dependency. This is the moment you stop dancing for others and begin walking your own path. You see now that outward validation was always an illusion, a fleeting comfort that could never sustain you. Real validation lives inside. It is in the way you endure, the way you build, the way you keep moving forward even when no one applauds. It is in the discipline of becoming, in the integrity of living aligned with who you truly are. That kind of validation cannot be taken, cannot be diminished, because it does not belong to anyone else. It belongs to you. And this is where the true danger lies, because a person who no longer needs approval is uncontrollable. A person who does not rely on applause is untouchable. The world does not know how to respond to someone who cannot be manipulated by recognition or crushed by silence. They will try, of course. They will push, they will test, they will tempt. But you are no longer caught in their traps. You see through them now, and that sight is your power. When you move with intention, not desperation. When you speak with clarity, not for applause. And when you are silent, it is not because you have nothing to offer, but because you are choosing restraint. This confuses them. It unsettles them, because they cannot place you in the box they built for everyone else. That is when they begin to realize, you have become something different. You have become a presence they cannot ignore, even when you are invisible. The revolution of inner transformation is not dramatic. It does not need to announce itself, because it is not for them, it is for you. It is the deep knowing that even in failure you are not diminished. Even in rejection you are not erased. Even in silence you are not powerless. You become anchored in a truth that no storm can shake. You are enough as you are, and you are becoming more every day. This doesn't mean you stop striving, stop growing, stop reaching. No, if anything, it means you grow with greater freedom, because your growth is no longer tied to recognition, it is tied to purpose. Every step you take is your own, not a reaction to what they think of you. This kind of independence is rare, and because it is rare, it is powerful. It is not the kind of power they teach you about, but the kind of power that changes the course of lives, quietly, unshakably, permanently. And so you begin to embody a different rhythm. You live not in reaction to others, but in creation of yourself. You are no longer chained to the desire to be liked, no longer addicted to the temporary high of approval. Instead, you become rooted, steady, calm. This calmness is not weakness, it is presence. People begin to feel it around you. They cannot explain it, but they sense it. They sense the quiet authority, the weight of someone who is no longer moved by shallow game, and that presence becomes your greatest weapon. Because the danger they never saw coming is not your anger, not your retaliation, not your noise. It is your silence, your unshakable stillness, your refusal to play the role they wrote for you. That is what makes you untouchable. That is what makes you the danger hidden in plain sight. So when the final moment comes, when life demands you step forward, you do not need to announce it. You do not need to prove anyone wrong. Your existence as it stands is proof enough. You are not here to seek validation. You are here to embody transformation. You are not here to impress. You are here to awaken. And when you rise, when you reveal the self that has been forged in silence, no one will be ready. Not because you hid yourself out of fear, but because they were too blind to see you growing. And in that unveiling, the message is clear. The greatest revolution is not in conquering others, but in conquering yourself. The true victory is not in being seen, but in becoming so complete within that whether they see you or not, you remain whole. Be the danger they never saw coming, not because you wished to scare them, but because you finally became everything you were meant to be.